Torah.
Nazarene.
Lying for my King, YAHUSHA.
Welcome to Torah Talk, a Torah Institute podcast.
Torah just means instruction in Hebrew. At Torah Talk, we will make straight the ways of Yahuwah and discuss the simple truths of Scripture so that even you can understand and get all the juicy life hidden within the pages of Yahuwah's Torah. Welcome to Torah Talk with Lew White and Mark Davidson.
It's the Torah Zone.
Hey,
Hey, brother.
good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Are you? What time is it there?
It's 9 o'clock on the dot.
Oh, 9 o'clock at night.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's just past 7 here in the morning.
Fantastic.
So now watch this. Coffee. Yeah, we love coffee. Do you drink coffee?
No, I don't, but not for any particular reason, only that I don't like it.
Oh.
Yeah. Never took a taste to it.
Yeah, I've already had.
My addiction used to be to Coke, so that was where I got my caffeine.
Yes, indeed.
What is it?
Coke.
Coke. Oh, that's
Yeah.
corn syrup's bad for you.
Yeah, the corn syrup and the caffeine. Well, no, it's the CO2.
Hey, sister, how you going?
Hey, how you doing? I'm
Yes,
awake today.
Fantastic. Wonderful.
So, what I was thinking, when do you want to go ahead and begin the show? You want to just use excerpts of our discussion, or like our just chatting together?
Yeah, I'm just happy to do whatever. Yeah, whatever you feel.
You have a paper that you've got a little guideline on, or you've got a guideline sheet. That one that you prepared was marvelous.
You like that? Or we could use that if you like. Yeah. So, I mean, how do you want to? I'm not sure how we're gonna. Well, do you want me to just say hello to everybody and then welcome you? I mean, it's hard for us to sound like we're both in the same studio. I think I'll just have to say up front we're Skyping this so that it doesn't sound a bit weird.
Right.
And I'll just say, Brother Lew's here with me right now. We're Skyping because it's not like you're a guest or something. We're both doing it together, so it's like,
Right.
I don't know. I guess just to make it sound natural. I guess.
I think that's a great idea. As long as they know that there's a slight delay, it doesn't sound like one of us is brain damaged and there's a delay, like hello. But if we just tell them there's about a 2-second or so delay.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Anyway, I wanted to ask you if we could some way segue into the fact that this is 2011 on the Roman calendar, and the 400th year of the King James Version, and maybe we could do a slight kind critique of that. Why we because see, they were just coming out of the Dark Ages, and literacy was on the increase. In fact, the King James Version was probably the main reason why literacy was able to be, enhanced.
So I'll say, so brother, it's the year 2011. What do you think about that?
Well, you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me that it's 400 years since the 1611 King James Version was first published, and King James, he was, I think it was 1604 when he granted the permission to translate it. You know, William Tyndale, back in the he was born in 1492. A long time before, and he was an Englishman as well. And he, when in 1492, that's another year that we remember, because this Isabella and her husband Ferdinand allowed the Yahudim, or the Jews as they call them, to be exiled from all of Spain, or die or convert. But the harbors were choked because the day before Christopher Columbus launched his boat, they were expected to leave. And anyway, in 1492, that was the year William Tyndale was born. And he only lived 44 years. He died in, I think, 1536 from an accident with a burning of the stake. He encountered a burning stake. And he had published in English the translation of the Brit Chadashah, or the New Covenant as they call it, in 1534. So they hunted him down, and 2 years later they burned him at the stake. So he died at the age of 44.
Wow.
And this was long before the King James Version. So they were killing people for translating, you know. It's so sad.
And the King James Version is where they first brought is that where they first brought JSUS into the piece, or was it LORD, or was it?
Yes, they had those things in there, but they say King James didn't have anything to do with the translation, but he did, because of the fact that even though he may not have had a hands-on thing, he actually gave them rules. And one of those rules, as we remember from that seminar on CIRCE or C-Spot, they use that word CHURCH instead of something that would mean congregation, you know. And that was sad.
So could you say assembly there, or would it congregation be closer?
Yeah, so assembly would be perfect if they'd have done that, or congregation. But you see, that gave the hierarchy a feeling of empowerment, because the Nicolaitans understood that there were two levels. There were the people, what they call the laity, and then there was the people who were literate, that were priests, and they were able to, you know, have that lording over the laity, as they say, or conquering the laity, Nicolaitan, you know.
So people who have the original King James on their shelf and swear by it and say, oh, that was the original, it's not, is it?
The Geneva translation was just a little before that, and they were using that same word, you know, CHURCH for the first time. Yeah, so.
And of course, that's a pagan deity.
It sure is, yes. And but that it reinforced that hierarchical level so that they could put themselves above the people. And that was never the intention of YAHUSHA or the first disciples, because they were all brothers.
Yeah. All even, equal.
The King James is very, important, but like there's little mistakes, like in Acts 4, verse 12, the word Pascha, which is used 22 times or so in the entire body there. The word Pascha is Greek for Passover, and they avoided the word Passover in that one verse, even though all the other verses they translated it correctly. So the King James has that problem.
So you're saying people should try and get their hands on a more correct translation of the scriptures,
or know the difference where their translation errors are. There's people that are out there defending the King James for a variety of reasons, and they even defend the errors, and that's sad. But you have to admit that one of the biggest errors they had in the King James was that they completely wiped out the third commandment, to not lay waste his name, and they took his name out and put LORD in.
Wow.
That's not. But you have to remember, though, they were Catholic oriented in their thinking. They were, also coming out of the Dark Ages. The King James Version was just the first twinkle of light, But actually, William Tyndale's he was the first to translate into English.
I noticed the Strawberry Islands and the Institute for Scripture Research were kind of hand in hand. Did you play a big part in helping bring about the scriptures, the scripture version?
Well, the scriptures, but that was published in South Africa, was mostly the work of one man, and that was Chris Koster.
Yeah.
And he was the one that was doing that. And the successors that took over the reins after his death, they asked me immediately after his death if I would be willing to help distribute those. And of course, after we prayed about it and thought carefully about how it would impact us, we decided to definitely go forward with it because this was the will of YAHUAH.
Yeah.
And that was wonderful. And since then, we've been promoting them, and we found it to be the best translation up to that point. And then I think the corrections that the Besorah has in it, where we have the PaleoHebrew script, and there's some other little technical things where plural words were used where it was really a single word. Just little technical things. We made little corrections to the Hebrew.
Yeah.
But when I was first talking with Wilhelm, one of the director that basically took over ISR in South Africa at the time, he said that he'd never seen the PaleoHebrew before, and I was showing him that, and I was encouraging them to reprint the scriptures with the PaleoHebrew. And of course, that has not yet happened, but one day he took a vacation and went to Jerusalem, and he emailed me excitedly. He said, "Lew, I saw it. I saw PaleoHebrew on the great Isaiah scroll in the Dome of the Rock," or whatever it is. Not the rock, the scroll, yeah. The place where the scroll is.
Wow.
And he was so excited because he saw the modern Hebrew script, and then wherever the name occurred, it was written in PaleoHebrew, and it really stood out. And he said, wow, he was so excited.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes, it was.
We're trying to make it simple for new people coming in, and we're saying YAHUAH, but they're seeing these symbols there. Do you think maybe it would be easier for people coming in if we just spelt it in English, YAHUAH? We know that it was originally PaleoHebrew. Do you think it would be easier for new people if we just wrote it YAHUAH? We do a lot in our articles, but
I agree.
Is that to please people who we may not think pronounce it the same way as us? Is that more of a pleasing one another, or do you think we should make it easier for people, or do you think it's still necessary?
Well, I'm not thinking that we'll ever reach a point where everybody who writes it in English is going to be on the same page, because some have different agendas. They want to help the people understand that don't know anything at all, and they use the spelling YAH is not a problem, but when you get to the third letter of the name, they like to use a U with a W to help people visually see it and kind of articulate it better. And then they've got this W hanging in there between the U and the A, the AH ending. And that, to me, is possibly a problem if YAHUSHA should tarry another 100 years or more. And we've got these W's all over the place with this U next to it, and no telling what the letters are going to really change into over time. But a W is not an evil letter, and it doesn't really change the sound of the word for us, because if you spell it with just a U instead of a U and a W, it actually does sound exactly the same. YAHUAH, you hear your lips doing the W, but it's really a transition between the U and the Ah that causes that. But when you write the W, you're writing a W, and a W is not, it's a new letter. It's not an original letter. There's people that argue about that, and then they say V, as we understand a V. Well, even in Jehovah, the word Jehovah is not. I'm actually mispronouncing it, because it's we understand it JEH, which is represented by a Y really, and it is not a J, although many people use it as a J, and so it's really Yah, and then the OVAH is the problem, because OV is not really what it is. You're looking at a Latinized U, which is an upsilon in Greek, and it's OU, which would give us the whole transliteration of what we see as Jehovah would be really Yahuwah, because it's a diphthong, a dipping of the tongue, O-U-A-H, producing that sound that we understand as a W there. But people think that it's a V, and it isn't really a V at all, and it's not a W. It's just from the Greek. Well, the Hebrew would be the YAHUAH, the sixth letter, and then when it went into Greek, it was shaped the same. It looked like what we would write as a capital Y, but it was really the upsilon in Greek, and PaleoHebrew, they matched. But when it went into Latin, it lost that lower stem. It became what we see shaped as a V, but it was still operating as a U. So, gladius is an example I use a lot, because gladius is the Latin word for sword, and it's written often with that V shape, I-V-S, but it's really a U. So it's gladius, It's really hard for people to understand this stuff, but U, V, and W are all based upon the Hebrew sixth letter, YAHUAH.
Yeah.
And you can hear it like in the name Esau, the man that we call Esau. Well, his name is very interesting because his name ends with that sixth letter. And they write it often as E-S-A-W, but really it's E-S-A-U. Why would we argue about that?
Yeah. So if you take Jehovah and actually pronounce it properly as they would have back then, in the symbols, the four letters, it would have sounded like Yahuwah.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, they say that we can't know, but we can. The ones that really promote the idea that we don't know is things like rabbis in Judaism, rabbinical Judaism. They don't want you to know, and they certainly don't want you to pronounce it. So as they came out of Babylon, they prohibited it. In fact, they said it was death penalty if you did, which is part of the reason why we read why they were picking up stones to stone YAHUSHA, because he was pronouncing the name. And Paul was sent out before he was Paul, when he was still Shaul. He was given letters to go into foreign lands to arrest the Nazarene who were pronouncing the name, and to bring back them to the Sanhedrin so that they could hear them blaspheme. And to them, pronouncing the name was blasphemy. And that's what he was himself said, that they would bring him back and they would let them blaspheme,
So it's all about his name. What's the big deal about his name? Doesn't he know our hearts? That's what they always say. He knows my heart. It's just a name. What's the big deal? Yeah, why can't I say J-E-S-U-S? He knows my heart. He doesn't care. But does he?
Well, that's the real trick, because you see, the deceiver, the dragon, I believe, wants to be Yahuwah, not just be like him, but be him in our understanding. But he's an identity thief, as you and I well know, and he wants to become the identity and be worshipped in the place of our anti-Messiah. He is the anti-Messiah ultimately. But you see, when you change the name, then you divert the true worship away from the true creator. And even though you use the same words and it's all about the things that YAHUSHA did, when you obfuscate around the name, then you're able to say, well, it wasn't YAHUSHA that did these things. It was Elmer Fudd or Daffy Duck. You just change the name, and then suddenly the adversary has slipped in there, and he will allow worship to be given to him by whatever name you want, except the true name. You wouldn't want that, because then he hasn't really accomplished his task.
Yeah. I said to my son this morning, he said, they're talking about Yahuwah at school today. I said, oh, yeah. He said, oh, they don't call him Yahuwah, though. They call him G-O-D. I said, oh, yeah. He said, he's talking about that. I said, oh, well, you know about that, don't you? I said, well, you know what they've done. Would you like it? How do you think YAHUSHA feels? I said, would you like it if I started calling you John? because his name's Josiah. I said, how about I start calling you Tom? No, I don't want that. No way. I said, why not? That's not my name. I said, well, how do you think YAHUSHA feels? They're just throwing this in his face. They don't care. And even if you tell them, they're just angry at you. And how do you think he feels, aside from all the technicalities? What about his heart? How does he feel when, this is my name. This name has power to heal people, to, cast out all demons in the book of Acts, all the things that went on. And they say it's no big deal. It's, what do you think it does to his heart? So
Yes, we don't take his feelings into consideration at all, and we put our own above that, which makes it really blasphemous, because we're trumping everything he says about his name, and he's revealed it. But here's the real core of the problem, because when we change his name, we're diverting the worship to another being. That's what's really happened to us, because the false teachers are guided by some sort of a spiritual entity, and that if they were of the truth, then they would certainly be guided by truth, and they're not. So they stubbornly hold on to that. But here's another aspect of it. What if you're standing after whether let's say you're at the Great White Throne Judgment, and they're opening the books, and they're looking for your name. And they say, they call out your name, and as far as the one that they wanted to call you, but you were never known. You never knew yourself by that name. Is your name important enough to be written correctly in the scroll of life? And if you think your name is important and it needs to be in the scroll of life correctly so that you'll recognize it yourself, then wouldn't the scriptures have revealed the name of the Creator correctly so that we would be able to respond to that, and we know the name of our husband and the name of our shepherd? We just put our own feelings and impressions and opinions above what Scripture shows us.
And that would be isn't that amazing? I've never looked at it that way.
Tradition is a very, very hard thing to overcome. And I don't know, you could use a lot of allegorical illustrations of what tradition is like, but when it conflicts with the truth, tradition usually wins the majority of the people's opinions, because they don't want to change. They say, well, that's Hebrew, and we don't speak Hebrew, we speak English. In fact, we don't really speak so much English, we speak Latin and Greek, and they're anglicized forms of those words, but they're really not rooted in any English word. The adversary has been long at work for many, many, many thousands of years, and we look like brainless children to him.
Yeah.
And the ones that can overcome are being led by the Messiah, and their hearts are changed. It's really a heart thing.
What is it you think that we have to overcome? I mean, everybody's just full of so much knowledge and understanding, and you're talking about the heart now. What is it? What do you think it is we have to overcome? Because I mean, that's the whole theme of Scripture, isn't it? To those who overcome will get this, and those that overcome will receive that. And what is it? What is it really we have to overcome?
It's self-perspective, selfishness, doing things our way. We've deified ourselves. Our opinions and the opinions of our teachers have become the overarching motivation, and we try to defend them apologetically, when in fact the truth comes along, and the word is like a hammer that smashes a rock. And even though they resist it, when you use the sword on them, because that's the main weapon of love that we have, and we just use the words. That's what YAHUSHA did when he was confronted with the wisest creature that he ever created. When he came up against the wisest creature that he himself created, he used the word on him, and that word was enough to take care of the problem. But those who speak, who are children of YAHUAH, speak his words. They don't speak their own words. And that's what the prophets always said. These people go out there and they dream dreams of their own, and they have their own words, but they will not obey my words. And that's the thing we're overcoming, is we're overcoming that tradition and our own perspectives. Because when we take on his perspective, then we have received his mind, his viewpoint, and we look at it from his viewpoint and not our own. And then we're overcomers.
Yeah.
You know.
So how do you get the power in you to overcome these? I mean, I got a staff member. I talked to her, and she said, "Oh, I'm not ready to be immersed yet. I have to become this first, and I have to quit this first, and I quit that." Keep telling her, you don't have the power to do anything. If you haven't been immersed, I've just answered my own question. If you haven't been immersed,
that's exactly it. When a person is being demonically attacked by various things, or they have strongholds of thought in their heads and they want to overcome those, or they have habits like cigarette smoking excess, or the things that are controlling them, relationship problems. These problems can be overcome if they would just bow down to Yahusha's name, worship him, obey him, and commit their lives eternally to serving him. Because see, we're not he's not a genie that can just do whatever we want him to do. Yeah. We're his servants. We're the genies in that sense, because he tells us what we're to do. He equips us to do the things that we're supposed to be able to do, because those are the gifts, the spiritual gifts that each person has. And those gifts are not for us, they're for the service that we have to render. And most of the time, what that service is geared toward is the body, his body, which is Israel, and the other believers. And they're all at different levels, and that's why we see all these different weird little things that people do. Some of them put on little caps because they're imitating the rabbinical Judaism. Some of them have to do certain things a certain way. And they're basically imitating Talmud when they're doing that, which is the oral law that was written down. And YAHUSHA was railing against that. You know, he never commanded to add to the Torah, you know. But people are overcome by these things, and they come out of Christianity quite often, and then they adopt things that they see the rabbinical Judaism people doing, and then Messianic people, as they call themselves, they really don't know what they're saying. But if they just get more, a little simpler, you know, instead of getting it all complicated, because they're jumping out of one frying pan into another frying pan.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the task of this show. We want to do is to keep it simple, make straight the path of YAHUAH, really. So that, and as we heard in the introduction, so everybody can understand it, so you can understand it, so I can understand it. Because I don't know, I've only been a Nazarene for, you know, a few years now, and I don't understand half the stuff they're going on about. And I mean, I grew up in Christianity, so I don't understand half the things I see on half these sites, religious sites. And, you know, I've got His Spirit in me, and you know, I still don't have a clue what they're talking about half the time. It's very complicated, and they're all addicted to knowledge and intellectualism and lifting themselves up. And people's lives are just stuffed. They're just lost, and they're broken, and they're slaving away at jobs, and they try and, if they get a bit of a sniff of freedom and they try to come out, and then they get bombarded with all this complication, and it just makes it worse. So I think we should just make things simple. Don't you agree? We should just...
I do.
I think Scripture's very easy. Torah is supposed to be... A child can do it, you know?
That's very true. And when some people get a hold of information from what they call the anti-missionaries, who make them question what the words of Scripture really mean, then all sorts of weird little winds of doctrine happen, and then they find themselves losing belief in YAHUSHA, and they go into rabbinical Judaism full tilt. And that's being done. They're being swept off into that. And then there's the lunar Sabbath people who are changing the Torah again, and because they're reading into the text rather than, you know, reading from the text only. They're bringing things to the text in their own minds, which is, you know, the big error that a lot of people make. Yeah.
It's just so hard to stay on the straight path, isn't it? And not get distracted. So many things distract you along the way. to just overcoming, being filled with the Torah, overcoming and behaving, loving. They don't want to talk about the love or the behavior, do they? They want to talk about facts and figures and complicated things, and that you don't really. I haven't heard many of them want to talk about love.
That's true, and that's the goal of all of it. And when you miss that point, then you can deliver your body to be burned. You can give all of your wealth to the poor, and you've accomplished nothing. And because love is the overarching motivation. That's the goal. YAHUAH is love, and that's what we have to become like Him. So when we start worrying about what color clothing we're wearing, you would not believe all the different things that people have said to me over the years. They will not.
Don't wear polka dot shirts in your seminars.
This one fellow was actually upset because I used colored letters on my website, and he said we should not wear colors. We should not have color in our life. And then I was trying to debate with him. I said, "Well, who created colors?"
Yeah.
And of course,
Bad.
he said it's overly stimulating.
Oh dear. How's he feel about the videos then? Damn.
Oh, well, there's all sorts of people, and there's like Origen, one of the circus fathers. He was upset about his inclinations, and what YAHUAH had created for men and women was a good thing in marriage, but he self-castrated himself, as did Clement, circus father.
Yeah.
And they outlawed that later on. That practice was outlawed, but there was all kinds of weird things that people have to do to serve YAHUAH. They think, but it's not things that He told them to do. Like people that believe we have to take every new moon day, when the first day of each month comes, not the Roman calendar, but the new moon, that we have to take off from work. And yet that's not said anywhere except that one month, the seventh month, you have to.
Wow.
There's all sorts of people, and they apply things incorrectly. Things that the rabbinical Judaism, they have correct things that they do, but they have a lot of things that they've added, and you just have to be able to discern which ones they've added by going to the Torah, and the Torah will reveal exactly what they've added. If Abraham was eating milk and meat together, then you can bet that it's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They get caught up, don't they? Wow.
They sure do. Their table has become a snare to them.
Yeah. Wow. How long? This is off the point. Did they actually tell you how long this is supposed to go for?
Well, I was thinking we could probably make that just about any length we want. I would like to keep it about 30 minutes. That way the people online would be able to sit and watch it and not, have to wake up and find out that their whole day is shot.
Yeah, that's easy. Yeah, no problem.
But the restoration of the scattered sheep of Israel, they're in the nations, and we just need to reach them with the Torah and the simple yoke, and tell them that the Messiah has come. His offering of his own blood is the thing that sprinkles our hearts, and it cleans us so that we're purified by His blood on our hearts, and our belief in His sacrifice for us, and of course His resurrection. And when we believe these things, we're ready to get immersed if we want to obey Him. If we're not going to repent, then believing in Him isn't going to help, because that's what Christianity has been doing. They've been teaching legalism is an error, when legalism, being legal, is actually correct. We should be wanting to be legal. Psalm 119 is the words of a raving legalist. Psalm 119, most of the listeners would be familiar with. And when I was reading Psalm 119 for the first time, I was just leaping for joy inside, because I wanted to meet the man that wrote this psalm. It happens to be our good buddy Daoud, or David as they call him. But he's a very serious legalist, and I really like that,
Yeah.
And that was the breaking point. That's an overcoming thing, because legalism is being bandied about on the lips of a lot of Christian pastors, and anybody that would do that doesn't know it, but they're a warlock. They're working for the enemy.
That was
Because
good. That was
he's
good.
not. Yeah, YAHUSHA is not, running around inside people saying you don't have to obey. That's not your shepherd.
When like we realize now that we don't you don't go saying this stuff to everybody. It's about sensing Yahusha's spirit, and if he's drawing people and he sort of guides you to people, isn't it? It's not like religious go door knocking, all this madness, because you're waiting to see people who you feel are being drawn. There's no point if somebody's heart's not ready and they're not being drawn. How do you approach, because you're among this every day, and I heard them saying the other day, where's the witnessing there, Lew? Where's the witnessing? Like, how do you...
Yes.
How do you... I'm not saying how do you convince somebody, but where do you start with... Because they'll say, well, what do I need all this madness for?
Well, go back to what YAHUSHA told us. He said that you shouldn't cast your words or your pearls before swine. Otherwise, they could turn on you and they can injure you. They can kill you. If you just like that, there was a girl that we heard about that was in Jerusalem, and the fact is she was just telling people at large that the Messiah, or YAHUSHA, was coming back and was going to marry her. And of course, they were misunderstanding everything she was saying. But in view of that, they were attacking her and they beat her. They were beating on her. Now, if you just cast your words out like that, you're going to be inviting many blows and possibly even death. So we have to be guided by His Spirit within us. And for example, when our interviewer was talking with me, I think he probably thought that was pretty shrewd of him to say, well, let me just set you up with this scenario. And, well, where's the witnessing? Well, that's just it. And then I went on to explain that there's certain people that you are not going to tell anything to. The masses, the vast majority, even YAHUSHA, when he was standing in front of thousands, he would not reveal what he was saying to them at all, but only to those people who were, his closest associates, because it was not for them to know, and they were going to go on, and they were probably not going to be called. But a few would be. But that's what makes the few so special, is because they are valuable, because they have given up everything in order to pursue. In other words, everything that is given to us by YAHUAH, we turn over to Him, just like, well, if we get a crown, then we'll throw it at His feet for His use, because it's all His. Any talents that we have or any knowledge that we've been given, we give back credit to Him for all that, and then everything we put in service to accomplish His will, not ours, not to get a following after ourselves. It's not about us having our own little group of people following, hey, I'm so and so, come after hang on to every word I say. We have to go back to YAHUSHA's words, always point everything to Him, and then we'll all be on the same page. Don't look at men, because men are flawed, they're imperfect.
So you wouldn't encourage new believers who are just coming into Israel you wouldn't encourage them to be going and trying to talk to lots of people, because they'd just get hammered down, wouldn't they?
Oh yes, and Israel, in fact, we should not even be there, because we're in captivity until He comes back, as Acts 2 and 3 explain. If we're in Jerusalem, even YAHUSHA said, when you see the city surrounded, then you must flee to the mountains, which I interpret as the other nations, because the mountains are nations. Hello.
There you go. Your head's chopped off.
Oh, bye.
Hi. Good to see you.
We've got enough.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I wanted to also say that we have something we need to be saying. This is our first show, and I think that we should also include this word from YAHUAH that he said we would not see him again, YAHUSHA said, until we said, Baruch haba b'shem YAHUAH, which is back to what we were talking about before. If we're saying Baruch haba b'shem El Merfud, or Lord,
Yeah.
it's not going to work.
No. So when people are saying, blessed be he who comes in the name of Yahuwah, we know that something's starting to happen.
That's exactly the way I think it. And I saw this 26 years ago or so when I first started studying. I thought, what? I know the name? Who else knows the name? And I was thinking, why isn't my head exploding?
Yeah.
I know his name, you know, and because he revealed his name. He reveals his name and his covenant, you know, and to those who fear him, of course. And if we fear him, that means we serve him and we want to do his will and not ours.
Yeah. Amazing. So our plan basically from here each week is to basically start at the very beginning and guide people into the covenant, isn't it? Give them the very simple understanding so they can
The scattered tribes are going to be returning to the covenant. Deuteronomy 4 is explaining that. And of course, Deuteronomy 30. And it explains that we would be scattered into the nations. And then from there, where we were scattered, these words would come upon us. And that's what we all talk about in the seminars and on the YouTube.
Well, that's amazing, brother. I think we've run out of time.
Okay.
Thank you, brothers and sisters, for listening. It's been a pleasure. We want to present this radio show for you in love because we love you and we want to and spread Yahusha's love because there's not enough.
And we'll get together once a week.
Yeah, fantastic. Wonderful.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was a fake bye-bye.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well,
So now we have to work out an intro because we didn't say hello.
Oh, you want me to give you a hello?
Well, I'd have to say, I don't know, what would I say? Brothers and sisters, welcome to Torah Talk. My name is Mark Davidson and I'm here via Skype with our brother Lew White.
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah. This is our first show. I mean, I've known Lew for a few years now, but we've just been emailing for years and we've never even had a conversation until a couple of weeks ago. And now we're doing this radio show. What's that about?
Oh, boy. I don't know. And here I am looking at someone that I've known for years for the first time actually speaking in front. I can see her face. And it's amazing. It's like we're in another room, really. You know, it's like we're just playing tricks and you're in another room and I'm, you know, over here on the other side of the wall.
Yeah, modern technology.
It's, you know, Daniel chapter 12, is it? Or is it 14? No, there are only 12 chapters. I think it's Daniel chapter 12. It says that many would go to and fro and knowledge would increase. And of course, knowledge of Torah is what it really means. But, that, you know, technology has certainly increased. And Torah has been increasing along with that technology.
Yeah. Wow. So we can use that to our advantage now and get this word out there that there's hope. There's hope for people. Their lives are stuffed. Their lives are stuffed. They're lost. They're slaves in a wicked system, but there's hope. Yahusha's throwing anchors out all over the place. That's not right. Throwing life vests out everywhere. Throwing
Life vests.
Life vests. Yeah, get it right. Yeah. Get it right, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, if he was throwing anchors, that might hit some people in the head and drag them down. But life vests are life, you know, those lifesaver rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Wow. You know, you notice the light in this room is getting brighter.
Your face is just washed out now.
Yeah. Well, you see the sun. The sun is coming back. There's shades back here, but you see the sun is coming up directly behind me.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do to shield this, but well, that's better, isn't it?
Oh, that's a bit better. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I should put a little hat on this, little shield. You know.
Yeah. Fantastic. So I can't actually remember what we were talking about at the beginning of this recording, but I'm thinking I'll just say something like, so this show we're going to be talking about the Torah, funnily enough. And I don't know. What else we're going to talk about, brother?
Well, yes, I'd like to say that we're talking about what Nazarene would like to talk about, and that's the Torah, but also, because we're guardians of his name, and we did discuss his name.
Yeah.
Quite nicely. There's more to be talked about, of course, but the essential points and motivations for using his true name is there. So Nazarene would defend his name, and we're also guarding his Torah, his covenant. And so we want to do those two primary things. At least that's what the mission is that I think that Nazarene were given in the Great Commission.
Yeah. And as time goes on and we get the hang of this new thing we're doing, we'll be inviting people to Skype in with us, and they can talk to us. They can ask all sorts of questions that they can.
That's true. And not to say that we would know the answers, but just to ask the questions. Because the questions are very important sometimes. They're actually, the answers might be given by the Spirit of YAHUSHA, but sometimes he'll ask the questions through people which will lead us into greater knowledge and understanding. But it all has to wind up in one place, and that's love. If it winds up somewhere else, like, well, we've packed in for knowledge here, and that's the goal. Because the goal is not knowledge, but some knowledge is important because, if we've rejected his name, and we reject knowledge, then, we're not going to get to the end result, which is, of course, the knowledge is to lead us to love.
Yeah. Wonderful. So I think I've got enough to edit.
Oh yeah, you're going to have a job there. I tell you, you do a wonderful job on the things that you use. I'm amazed that you're well. I'm sure YAHUSHA given you all these talents to be able to have the insights, and he puts this stuff in your lap, and then you use it so effectively. Like that last video that you just did of the image of the beast was just amazing. The beginning opening thing was just great, and I'm sure a lot of people are distressed over seeing the things that they're seeing, but it isn't really anything but illustrating what we're really looking at in the world.
Yeah, I think there was a comment on that this morning. Somebody said 4 minutes of spooky music and stuff, that's so overdone.
Not at all. Not at all. People go through more than 4 minutes of the real world here,
That's right.
And yeah, you're just illustrating, I think, effectively exactly what people are really seeing, because you see everything in the background that we don't see in the spiritual realm. That's the stuff that's going on. We're being laughed at.
Yeah.
Even the pagans that worship, they use, Satanists or witchcraft or whatever. Those people laugh at Christians, not because Christians don't know the origins of what they're really doing.
Yeah.
And they actually I've talked to witches, and they tell me how ignorant these Christians are. And it's because they have adopted the same thing, the witchcraft, that they themselves practice for real. And they have no knowledge of it. That's why I call them warlocks. They are unknowing warlocks mostly.
Yeah.
There are some, though, that actually know. And believe me, warlocks have infested the upper levels of Christianity.
Yep.
Real ones.
Yeah.
That's obvious.
Wow. Full on.
Well,
that's great. I think we'll call that a night or a day for you.
Yes. Now, at what time did we start? What time was it your time?
I started 9 on the dot, and you said it was
at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
In the evening.
In the evening.
Yeah.
I thought so. It turns out we're only 14. You're 14 hours behind us. I thought it was 14 plus a day. I was silly.
Well, Phil was telling me it was 14 hours. Yeah, but she thought it was behind us, but it's really ahead. You're ahead of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that why you sent me the DeLorean?
Well, that might be, but DeLorean. I have a pickup truck that's about 14 years old, and I drive it to work. It takes me almost a half an hour to get there, and if I have to go faster, then I'm, taking a risk.
Yeah.
I don't want to go faster, so I just wind up being late if I have to be. But yeah, the DeLorean was a funny little picture I found, and I thought that would be applicable to that email.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Good
So
time
is
sheet.
this time all right for you guys? Do you normally get up this early, or what do you? I don't know what your hours are
Well,
working.
we got up this morning at 6. We usually get up an hour later, but that's not a problem. What day of the week would be good for you?
Well, right now is pretty good. I mean, for us, because the computer's now in the salon, and we work late till pretty much 9 anyway, and so everybody's gone.
Yeah.
The staff are gone, and I'm just here, so it's good for me.
So you want to do it again a week from today?
That's great. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Well, that would be awesome. Yeah. Well, let's just do that. Well, let's just count on doing it on the same day as we've done it and the same time, and I'll let you call me.
Yep.
That way, because see, here's the thing: you have to finish your job there, and I don't want to call you and interrupt your final details.
Yeah. That's
And
great.
I'm just sitting here with coffee, waking up, and it's just a morning thing. I don't have to go into work today until actually noon.
Oh, that's great then.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Very good.
I could get a lot of other work here done. See, that's the good thing. I don't, this is my real job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, that's wonderful. So we'll go on next week. We'll start reading from some foundational thing. You like that package thing I put together? Did you? We'll go from
Yes, that was wonderful. That was so well organized, and we could just go down that and spontaneously, if you just think of something to bring up, then we can start discussing that. And I can open up that document too, and that would be a good thing. I've got that document.
I'm sure. I'm sure I'll never be short of questions once Chris and Jason and everybody else hears it. They'll go, ask him this. Ask him this.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Well, I don't have all the answers. I'm just saying the questions are wonderful, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, we love you, mate. We're going to head off. It's getting
All
late.
righty. You have a good evening and take care of those little ones.
Yep, we'll do. Love you,
Okay,
mate.
love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Torah Talk.